All right, well, we're in chapter 16 of Joshua today. Would anyone like to read? We're going to read the whole chapter and go through this. Two people read 1 through 5 and then 6 through 10.
I'll read 1 through 5.
Okay.
6 through 10.
Okay.
The allotment for Joseph began at the Jordan, east of the springs of Jericho, and went up from there through the desert into the hill country of Bethel. It went on from Bethel, that is Luz, crossed over to the territory of Archites and Athroth, descended westward to the territory of the Japhletites, as far as the region of Lower Beth Horon, and on the Gezer, ending at the Mediterranean Sea. So Manasseh and Ephraim, the descendants of Joseph, received their inheritance. This was the territory of Ephraim according to its clans. Am I supposed to read 5?
Yeah. Sure.
The boundary of their inheritance went from Athroth, Adar, in the east to Upper Beth Horon.
Then on the Mediterranean Sea, from Makiman, or whatever, on the north, the boundary curved eastwards past Tanath, Selo of the east, Genoa. From Genoa, it turned up southward to Lazzaro and Nara, touched Jericho, and ended up in the Jordan River. From Tapua, the boundary extended westward, following the Canal Ravine and the Mediterranean Sea. This is the homeland allocated to the clans of the tribe of Ephraim. In addition, the town with the surrounding villages is a territory allocated to the half tribe of Manasseh, where set aside to the tribe or the tribe of Ephraim. They did not drive Canaanites out of Gezer, however, so the people of Gezer live as slaves among the people of Ephraim to this day.
All right. You're learning Hebrew. You're doing pretty good with those words. All right. Verse 1. The allotment of the people of Joseph went from the Jordan by Jericho, east of the waters of Jericho, into the wilderness, going up from Jericho into the hill of Bethel. So here is the breakdown of this. See if you guys can figure out what this is picturing.
Not picturing us, is it?
It's how?
Is that picturing us, the Gentiles?
Not as us as a Gentile. This is picturing the effects of Christ's work on us, the Gentiles, or his people. Anyway, this the people. So if you look through here, you go to Jordan. He descended, and in the east is when the sun rises, and he arose. Jericho is the place of fragrance, which pictures the garden, and the wilderness is the place of testing, and then you got the waters of Jericho. The waters of Jericho is the waters that came out of Jericho, Elisha's spring, and those are the springs that Elisha healed these waters, and Jesus is the living water that heals us. Joseph is the leader. Yeah, I'm missing a tile. Well, oh well. That's why you're not seeing this. Okay. Well, let me tell you, Jordan Okay, Joseph is the leader of Israel. His name means he will add and he will take away, like take away your sins. And he was the leader of Israel. And we find this in 1 Chronicles 5:2. It says, though Judah became strong with his brothers and chief came from him, yet the birthright belonged to Joseph. So Joseph got the birthright. And here we are talking about Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh and their allotments. Okay, and all of these words that's being used here picture Christ, what he's going to do for us, his effect on us when he comes. Okay, he's the living water that heals. The waters that come out of Jericho, out of the place of the garden, he heals. And Bethel means the place of God, or the house of God. So that's what all this first stuff is picturing. And if we go to verse 2, it says, then going from Bethel to Luz. Luz means departure or almond. And it passes along to Atarot, which means crowns. So depart, crowns, the territory of the Archites. We don't know what that is. So I believe that's picturing that we need to turn and you will get your crowns. 3, then it goes down westward to the territory of Japhlites as far as the territory of Lower Beit Horon and Gezer, and it ends in the sea. Japhlites are he will deliver. Beth Horon is house of the hollow or freedom, and Gezer is part or portion. So he will deliver us, give us freedom. He'll deliver us from the depths and give us freedom, and we will have a part or portion in the kingdom, Gezer.
I think you should have a map.
Well, I might. Okay. So, once again, Christ descends. He spends time in the wilderness. He arises. He departs to the house of God, and he obtains crowns and gives these to us to obtain. And we can gain our portion, our inheritance through his work. Verse 4, the people of Joseph, Manasseh, and Ephraim received their inheritance. So here we're talking about Joseph and his 2 sons now. Okay. Keep in mind that Joseph was of the tribe. Joseph, he was an Israelite, but his 2 sons were Gentiles from Egypt. Okay. And they're receiving an inheritance in the kingdom. In fact, Israel actually makes them just as the other sons. Okay. And Joseph means he shall add, take away. Manasseh means he will cause to forget from a debt. And Ephraim means double fruitful, or ashes. Like when you sacrifice, you have ashes, and that's double fruitful. Okay, these names picture Christ. They take away our sins. Okay, Christ takes away our sins, adds us to the kingdom.
So I got a question.
Okay.
So Manasseh and Ephraim are Joseph's 2 sons. Okay. Joseph is an Israelite. Okay. Joseph is not a Gentile. He is a Jew, not a Gentile, correct?
But his
Correct.
wife was Egyptian.
What?
His wife was
Right.
Egyptian.
Right.
So, why is it that even though Joseph's wife is not Jewish and Israelite, doesn't the father determine the
Heritage.
lineage of, you know what I'm saying?
The
What-
inheritance.
Yeah, why, so, and I don't know how to do it without getting off into the weeds, but if dad is Italian and mom is whatever, the kids, aren't they still Italian because of dad, the 2 sons, aren't they? You see what I'm asking?
Yeah,
I'm trying to, yeah.
Yeah.
And what am I missing? Obviously there's something here I'm missing as to why the 2 sons are not, why they are, because Is it
Why
because
they're
you?
considered Gentiles
Yeah,
instead of Jewish.
is it because to maintain your Jewish status, you would have to have a father and a mother both? Is that why it is?
From Israel. That's what God told us. Do not
Between
marry.
out of your
Yeah,
Right.
without Israel. Don't marry people in other foreign countries and
Right.
all this. And it isn't really the marrying other people of different nationalities that's the problem, or color of skin, or nationality.
Right.
It's what's being pictured here. It's the Gentiles who have different gods that will take you away. And that's what Egypt had. They had many gods. But yet Joseph married one of the daughters, and Ephraim and Manasseh was his. Now I'm sure he trained them up right in the way they should go. But it's not so much the different nationalities or Gentile, and that's what God's trying to show us here. The Gentiles are actually going to receive the inheritance before Israel does, because they rejected their Messiah. And Joseph is a picture of Messiah, basically. That's why he isn't getting a piece of land, but he gains inheritance through his two children, Ephraim and Manasseh. So Jacob adopts them as one of their own. We're going to see this here in a minute. He adopts them just as Reuben and Simeon and Levi are my sons, so Ephraim and Manasseh will be my sons, and they're going to gain inheritance. That's a picture of the Father
adopting us. Correct?
adopting us,
Okay.
and giving us our inheritance.
Okay.
So is that the piece you meant?
Yeah, and then
Okay.
probably also we could extrapolate that into the portion where, and I forget, because I can't memorize books, chapter, verse, but where it says, that when you get married, you're not supposed to, a believer shouldn't be saddled or be married to an unbeliever, right? So
Right.
that would also probably fall into this same,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it would.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
Also, an interesting thing about that is that I think in the Old Testament it talks about the thing about adoption, and that a father could disown his own son if he veered off away from the what the family believed in, but he could not deny or disown an adopted son, because he chose that son. It wasn't an automatic through birth thing. He chose that son. So doesn't that kind of put us in a really better position than the Jews?
it actually pictures what's being told in the Bible about eternal security. Once you're saved, you are saved. You are kept by the hand of God, not your own works.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for that, right?
Yeah, amen. Yeah.
Because I'd lose it if it was on me. So, all right. So, when Christ is offered, that's where the ashes comes in the name Ephraim. There's a double portion to be had in that, okay? So it says, now divide the territory for Ephraim, and then Manasseh is what we're going to look at in the next chapter. So Joseph, this is all outlining Joseph, and Joseph is a picture of Christ and what Christ is going to do for us, give us all this. Now we're going to look at the territory of Ephraim, okay? Verse 5, the territory and people of Ephraim by their clans was as follows. The boundary of the inheritance on the east was Ataroth Adar, as far as upper Beth Horon. And there we go. Ataroth Adar means crowns of greatness or majestic crowns. So when he obtained his crown, now we're going to be able to get our crowns. Upper Beth Horon is upper place of hollow or freedom. And verse 6, and the boundary goes from there to the sea. On the north is Mikmapat. Then on the east boundary turns toward Ta'anah Shiloh and passes along beyond it on the east to Yanoah. So that means hide or conceal, hiding place. So we're in a hiding place. Tanah Shiloh is occasion, or from Shalah, quiet, tranquil. He gives us that tranquil, quiet place, rest. And that's what's the next word, not John Noah. Comes from Noah. Nuah means rest. So here's where it's picturing he's going to give us tranquility and rest. 7, then it goes down from Yanuah to Atarot and to Naarah and touches Jericho, ending at the Jordan. So these words are rest, crown, young woman of age, girl, that's, I believe, picturing the church, and place of fragrance, picturing the garden, and the descender. So he's going to give us a crown to the woman of age, the church, and we're going to be back in the garden with the bride of Christ, and that's going to happen from the Jordan, the descender. So then we have the next words to look at, the boundaries go, and it's tapuach, and that comes from ruach. Tapuah is breath. It also can be translated apple. Tapuah means apple, tapuah. And if you say tapuah adamah, that's apple earth. So what is the apple that you get from the earth? Potato. That's how you say potato in Hebrew, tapuah adamah. Then you have brook, which is nahal. It's a stream. And then you got kanah, which is the inheritance of the possessor. So these are all pictures of what we're going to get when Christ does this. And it says, together with the towns, they are set apart for the people of Ephraim within the inheritance of Manassites, all those towns with their villages. Midalah means set apart. We're separated cities, so we're set apart because of the work of Christ. And verse 10, here's where I want to camp out. Here is a map that Inez likes. Here's a map for you. Verse 10, check this out. However, they did not drive out the Canaanites who lived in Gezer. So the Canaanites had lived in the midst of Ephraim to this day and have been made to do forced labor. What do you guys see in this verse? We just went through all these boundaries of Ephraim and Joseph and showed you how Christ was going to obtain all this stuff for you. He was going to give you this. This is what you're going to get. Crowns. You're going to become the bride and gain the inheritance. And look at what they do. They did not drive out the Canaanites, but made them do forced labor. So what do you guys see in this last verse?
That they failed.
They
They
failed.
God.
They failed to do what they were told to do, didn't they? They
Isn't that
didn't
what's happening right now in Israel?
do what?
Isn't that what's happening right now in Israel?
Yep. Well, they're driving out the people in Gaza right now. Yeah, the Hamas, the evil ones.
Long time ago, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Something I heard that was kind of interesting, I don't quite know I understand it all, but I heard that the people in Gaza, the Philistines, were actually at one point part of Israel. They were Jewish people, and the Russian people and some people from another country called them that, Philistines, but they were really part of the clan. Do you know anything about that?
Nope, I've never heard that.
That they originated actually as part of Judah.
I've heard that too.
There's-
They were
there's-
actually Jewish.
There's actually a really good video on YouTube that addresses that
Yeah.
that whole
The whole
thing.
thing.
Amir does, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Because-
not so much about the Russian, he doesn't know anything about that, but about the fact that there is no such thing as Philistines. There
And
is
there's no such thing as Palestine.
well, and
Because there's no
ways-
P in the Arabic dictionary. There's no P.
Going back
So
to
Palestinians were actually Jewish back in the day, like in 1900. Those were the Jews, Palestinian Jews.
It's all covered
It
very
was
thoroughly.
all very covered
Yeah,
as
it's-
that they were Jewish.
She explains it all very
And
well.
whenever Britain pulled out of Israel, because they, had a lot of that land, when Britain pulled out and told Israel, you can become a state, like in 48, well, I think it was, that's when some of them, they were Jewish Arabians, I guess, went to Gaza and declared, we're Palestinians. Because the Britons kind of called them that, because that was their name. But there's no P in the Arabic dictionary.
See, I'm learning from you guys today.
What's the video called?
Well, back you had a map of the people who didn't get no inheritance, where they divided that into the different cities.
Okay.
Would part of their ancestry or religion be transferred to the residents in those cities?
The ones that didn't get an inheritance, you talking about the Levites?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Levites, I don't know if I got a Levite picture up here or not. I don't think I do in this one. But yeah, the Levites got.
There was 13 cities or something like that.
Okay.
That was kind of all over Israel though, wasn't it?
They divided it.
Each clan had their own group of Levite cities.
Yeah, each tribe is going to get their territory. These are your boundaries, and these are the cities in your boundaries that you're going to get, is what's being told through all these stories. And they're all depicting Christ and what he's going to do for us and how we're going to be redeemed and what it's picturing. Did that answer your question, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Levites did not get inheritance of land because they're picturing Christ as your inheritance, which the Levites are priests. We're now priests. Christ is our inheritance. So we don't get land, but we get cities. You know, we get to live in a city with a portion that God provides for us. So we are provided for through Christ, but our home is not here. Our home is up there, right? I think that's what that's all picturing. That's why the Levites didn't get a portion of land. But they did get city, and they did get 2,000 cubits outside, didn't they? But they're the ones that are ministering for the people. Okay, so they didn't drive out the Canaanites. Could they have drove them out if they wanted to? Yeah, how could they have done that if they were really too hard and didn't want to leave? What could they have done?
Driven about like they drove everybody else out.
Yep.
It's almost like they got tired of fighting and said, well, there's some free labor if we just keep these guys around.
It's exactly.
You know, I mean, they've been fighting for years, driving all these people out. And they get down to the last one and say, okay, well, let's keep these guys. They can be our slave labor.
Yep. Look at where Ephraim is, right in the middle, the gray one. It's right by Jerusalem. It's right by Bethel, house of God. Jerusalem, city of peace. Shiloh, that's where the tabernacle was placed. Shechem, you got all that right there. And they couldn't drive them out. If they really wanted to, they could have went and knocked on brother Manasseh's door and said, hey man, will you help me out? Look at how big he is. He's the second biggest tribe in Israel. Judah's the first. Okay, he could have went to Dan and said, hey man, you help us out, we'll help you out. They didn't do that, did they? Okay, Canaan means subdued. Servants. Well, maybe that's why we should make them servants. No, they're subdued. God said kick them out. Gezer, part of portion. Ephraim is double fruitful. So basically, he is supposed to be double fruitful and doesn't do it. What does it say they lived? They lived in the midst of Ephraim. So if the Canaanites lived in the middle of Ephraim, that meant they were surrounded. Unless it means that they were scattered throughout, which means they were weaker because they were scattered throughout and they could have been taken. If they were surrounded in the middle, they could have been starved out, you know, because you were surrounded. But what did they make them do?
Labor.
Labor. They made them do forced labor. What's the contradiction here? Couldn't drive them out, but I made them do forced labor. If you had the strength to make them do forced labor, you had the strength to drive them out. Okay? All right, so that's the problem.
It's just the human nature.
That is the human nature. So how does this reflect on us today? What's this picturing for us?
We're just not listening. We don't follow what he says, you know.
Right.
Our focus is on ourselves and what would be the most beneficial to ourselves.
See what I can do.
Yeah. Huh?
See what I can do.
Yeah. What's most beneficial to me? Yeah, I would rather have them cut my wood and do all that, and where you're so dude, I'm over you. I'll have you be my log choppers and do all the hard work, pave the roads, chain gangs, or whatever, bust rocks, and I'll reap the benefit. That ain't what God said to do. And why is that? Because if you hang around someone with a different ideology, a different God, a different understanding than you do, what happens? You start adopting their understanding. Okay? So how does this,
That's what's going on in our country right now. We've got people in Washington and government that's their focus, what's best for them. They're not focused on this country or the people that put them in office. They're only looking out for their own welfare.
okay, and how does that play into our lives individually even? We'll just
Don't
say
we
to
all
us,
look out for ourselves?
yeah, we do, don't we? The real issue is are we listening to Christ? If he says drive out sin in your lives, are we doing it? Are we doing it? Or are we saying, it ain't bothering nobody?
Tomorrow will be a better day.
Yeah,
Tomorrow will be a different day.
yeah, I can tolerate it. I can handle it. They ain't got control over me. Well, pretty soon it will.
Right.
And we see this with people with addictions and stuff,
Just one.
Just one ain't gonna hurt.
No.
Yeah.
But you see the same thing that you saw on Ephraim when they got tired of fighting and they just didn't want to fight anymore.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's going on here in this country. People have gotten complacent. They just don't want to go through the trouble to do what they're supposed to do.
And I think we've lost the understanding that God has called us to fight.
Yep.
He didn't call us to sit there and get slapped and be, not do anything about it. He told us to fight evil. And the Levites, why do you think he put Simeon and Levi? Levites were the ones in charge of the temple. They were the temple guard.
They were the fighters.
They were the fighters. They would protect God's holiness at all cost.
But in today's society, I want to use the word invaders from the south.
Okay.
They're coming in and doing the manual work that the society does not want to get their hands on.
We're kind of doing the same thing, aren't we? We're allowing people to come in that does not have our understanding and ideology of this country, which is a requirement. We're all pilgrims. We're all supposed to come over here, but you got to be under the understanding of what we stand for. If you're not, then you're dividing this country. I would not expect to go over to some other country and, have them adopt to me. That's your country. And that's what's going on here. We're allowing people to come in and bring their own ideologies and understanding of their God and their understanding. And we're allowing that instead of keeping the borders protected. So, and we do this in our own lives right now. Are we really protecting our sanctuary, if you will? Do we allow sin to come in? Because it's little, it's one, I can handle it, it's no big deal, I have control. Well, after a while, you won't. God says, get it out of your midst. Don't tolerate it. And that's what we do.
What gets me is some people will say, oh, well, it's gonna happen anyway. God says it in the Bible and it's gonna happen. It's like, that's not what I see in the Bible. I see in the Bible that he wants you to stand strong. He don't want you to just throw it up in the air and give up.
Yeah.
He wants you to fight and
Yep.
stand strong for what you believe in.
Who are the people in the Bible that were the people of faith? They're the ones that stood and did something. David, Abraham, and all these people that walked in faith and stood against the norm are the ones that are in the Hall of Fame. Rahab, Jericho, she's in the line of Christ. So it's the people that will stand and do something righteous. And you've got to get over the fear of death. Walk in faith. Once you are saved, you can't die anymore. Yeah, your body can go back to dust. You can stop my heart or whatever. You can behead me, but you can't kill me. I'm already in the kingdom. And by the way, we need to stand for righteousness and truth. That's what Jesus did. I've come to testify to the truth. He got killed, but he cannot die. And you cannot die once you're born spiritually. Same way. You'll rise again. All right. So Joseph gets the firstborn right. Ephraim gets the blessing. And now we're going to look at Manasseh. He gets the double portion. Look at the land allotment of Manasseh. Look at that. Okay. C.S. Lewis said, faith will manage your fear, or fear will manage your faith. Which one are you going to allow? Okay. So let's look at Manasseh. Let's go to chapter 17. Let's see what this guy does. Oh, I was supposed to bring in, and never mind. I'll do that next. Actually, each one of these, I was trying to bring in a tribe of constellation. Yeah, I'll do it next. I'll do it next week. Okay, Joshua 17. Let's see here. That's a big, long one. There's a lot of words in there. You want me to do it?
Sure.
Okay. Then the allotment was made to the people of Manasseh, for he was the firstborn of Joseph. To Machir, the firstborn of Manasseh, the father of Gilead, were allotted Gilead, Bashan, because he was a man of war. And the allotments were made to the rest of the people of Manasseh by their clans: Abiezer, Hedek, Azriel, Shechem, Hefer, and Shemidah. These were the male descendants of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, by their clans. Now Zelophehad, the son of Hefer, son of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, had no sons but only daughters. And these are the names of the daughters: Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. They approached Eleazar, the priest, Joshua, son of Nun, and the leader, and said, the Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance along with your brothers. So according to the mouth of the Lord, he gave them an inheritance among the brothers of their father. Thus there fell to Manasseh 10 portions beside the land of Gilead and Bashan, which is on the other side of the Jordan. Besides, the daughters of Manasseh received an inheritance along with his sons. The land of Gilead was allotted to the rest of the people of Manasseh. Let me stop right there and go and start dissecting these first 5 verses. And we'll pick up with the rest of this, because I don't think we have enough time to do the whole thing today. 17. Okay, verse 1. Then the allotment was made to the people of Manasseh, for he was the firstborn of Joseph, to Machir, the firstborn of Manasseh. Father and Gilead were allotted Gilead, Bashan, because he was a man of war. Now, does anyone remember what the name Manasseh means?
Cause to forget.
Okay. Firstborn. What do you guys think of the firstborn? What happens? What does that guy do?
He takes the whole, half the portion. Or
Yeah.
twice.
He gets the half of the portion because he does what with that?
He
Takes care of the family.
Takes care of the family. He gets a double portion because he's the goel. He redeems the people who need to be redeemed, and he avenges the blood of those who needed to be avenged. Okay. Joseph means he shall add, take away. And Makir means salesman or sold. And let's see. I want you to know that Manasseh only had one son listed in the Bible. His name is Makir, salesman or sold. And then you've got, so the line goes, Joseph. Remember, Joseph had son Manasseh with the Egyptian bride. Manasseh has Makir. Makir has Gilead. And Gilead means perpetual fountain. And Bashan means place of fertile soil. And I thought I had a picture. I did, but for some reason it's out of line right here. And if you look, you've got Gilead, this section here, and then the Bashan is up there by the Sea of Galilee. It's basically kind of like the Golan Heights today. So those are the two regions. Now he gets those two regions within Manasseh.
You talking about Makir?
Huh?
You talking about Makir, Manasseh's firstborn?
Yeah.
Those two portions?
Mm-hmm. He gets the one portion over. He gets Gilead Bashan. And that means perpetual fountain and place of fertile soil. So that's a good region.
Right.
Okay. Joseph, if you remember, we just went through. Joseph was to be given the firstborn right. But, I'll tell you what. Go back even further. Remember when Joseph was a little kid and his father said, go out and look at my sons? What did they do? Go out and throw him in a pit, and then they sold him off for 20 pieces of silver and put him into slavery in Egypt. Okay, so he was thought to be dead at that point.
Right.
He was buried, but he was lifted out of the pit, wasn't he? And put into slavery. And this picture's Christ. Okay, Christ died. He was under slavery of the law.
Right.
He was sold for 30 pieces of silver, but he obtained the firstborn right. And that's what's going on here. Joseph obtained the firstborn right, and he's,
Delegating to all the brothers.
yeah, Ephraim and Manasseh are getting the double portion and the blessing. The church, us, are getting that because we're the son of Christ, which pictures Joseph. Are you guys tracking with all that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm sorry.
There's an interesting thing about that thing with Joseph, in that he actually was not the firstborn. Some of Leah's sons were born first, but he was the first of the chosen wife.
Right. Yeah. He was firstborn of Rachel. Rachel means little lamb.
But Rachel was chosen, Leah was not.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that story still involves the prodigal son where he's gone and comes back to his father, and his father gets in another portion of their inheritance?
I don't know. It might be. Yeah. Joseph obtaining the firstborn right, the double blessing and everything, giving it to his sons. That may be a picture of bringing that in. Wow. I'll have to study that out. That's a good tie. Because when the firstborn came back, he went off into sin. Christ didn't go off into sin. Joseph didn't go off into sin. But he obtained the firstborn right and blessing, didn't he? Wow. Okay. All right. So when we go to Genesis 48, we can see that this possession, this blessing, gets transferred to Ephraim and Manasseh. So let's go there, Genesis 48. And we know the story. I'm just going to bring out some points here. If you go to 48 verse 5, Joseph comes to him, he's going to give him the blessing, and it says, and now your 2 sons who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt are mine. Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine, just as Reuben and Simeon are mine. So, just as the 11 sons, your other 11 brothers are mine, so your children are going to be mine. So now you got 13. Okay, and this picture's the church that Jesus died for, coming from him, from his seed. From Ephraim and Manasseh came from Joseph. And we came from Christ, right? Spiritual seed. Okay, and if we go down to 11, it says, and Israel said to Joseph, I never expected to see your face, and behold, God has let me see your offspring also. Okay, this pictures Christ's death and resurrection and bringing his offspring, the church, us. Joseph was buried and sold into slavery. I just went through all that with the law. Until he died, rose again, and saw his father, right? This is a tie here picturing that. And Joseph was blessed. And then if you go down to verse 19, it says, but his father refused. Okay, here's going to do the double. He's going to give the praise. Let's start with 17. When Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, when he's giving him the blessing, it displeased him, and he took his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. And Joseph said to his father, not this way, my father, since this is the one born first. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. Nonetheless, this younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall become a multitude of nations. So he has blessed them and said to this day, by you Israel will pronounce blessings, saying, God make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. Now this is a blessing that the Jewish people say over their sons. Mm-hmm. They tell you, may God make you as Ephraim and Manasseh, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth. Okay. And then Israel said to Joseph, behold, I'm about to die, but God will be with you and will bring you again to the land of your fathers. Moreover, last verse, I have given to you rather than to your brothers one mountain slope that I took from the hand of the Amorites with my sword and with my bow. What hill did Abraham take, or Jacob take?
What was that?
What land, the mountain slope did Jacob take? Do you guys remember any mountain slope that Jacob took? No. There's only one thing that fits this that I can see. If you go to when they went to Shechem, and the Simeon and Dinah gets raped by the prince of Shechem. Remember that story? And then Simeon and Levi go in and kill all the people with Shechem after they come in covenant with them and were circumcised. That is when that happened. If in the commentaries, it says that in favor of this being the town of Shechem is the fact that it belonged to Jacob. That's in Genesis 37:12. We see that Joseph's embalmed body was deposited there, where the land is said to have been brought for 100 casitas. I don't know what that is. And lastly, the testimony of John 4:5, where a parcel of ground at Sychar, close to Shechem, is identified as the ground being given to Joseph and Jacob. So it was given to Jacob by Shechem, number one. He told us, you guys, I'll be your people and you be my people. You just stay out here with us and we'll be one. And he gave him that land. But Simeon and Levi went in and destroyed all the kings, and they ended up capturing the city also. And I think that's what's being told here. This mountain slope I give to you. The reason I say that is because when you go, here's Shechem right here. Shechem means shoulders. Can you see why it's called shoulders? Shechem. Okay, if you look down here, you got Jacob's well. That's where Jacob dug that well. This is where Jesus met the woman at the well, right here in this picture. Right in the middle there, you've got Shechem. I always thought Shechem was back here, but evidently it's right here. So let's go up on top of Mount Gerizim and look down. That's Shechem. Now this says Joseph's tomb is there, but I don't think so. I think it's over here off of the screen. But that's what Shechem looked like. And this is where they went in and killed all of the Shechemites. This is an older picture before everything got built up. And there's Jacob's well, what it looked like, had big pillars and stuff around it. There is what it looks like now. They built a big church over the top of it, and when you go inside, it looks like that. So now that's Jacob's well. Don't look like nothing of what it used to, does it? But it's deep. They pour water over it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you finally hear it. It's deep. They make that a point to show you. This is Joseph's tomb. It's right there in that town. So Joseph was buried there. He was coming out of Egypt and buried here. There's what it kind of used to look like. And inside you have that. And the Palestinians went through and desecrated it. So that's just a little bit of history there, and where that comes in. So you can see that all this is tied to Shechem because Joseph's tomb's there, Jacob's well's there, Shechem, Sychar, all that stuff is there. And that's the first place Jesus came after he come out of the wilderness. I think he went to the temple, then he went to the woman at the well, and then he went to the wedding and changed the water to wine. And he says, I'm telling you, you're not going to worship up here on these mountains or in Jerusalem, but you're going to worship in spirit, in truth. Give me some of that water. I am the living water. I am what you need. Okay. That was all verse 1. That was all verse 1. Verse 2. And the allotments were made to the rest of the people of Manasseh by their clans. Abiezer, Helek, Ezrael, Shechem, Hefer, and Shemitah. These were the male descendants of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, by their clans. Okay, this is where we're going to camp out here. This is pretty good stuff. How many people are here?
6.
Okay.
7.
You got 6 here. You got 6 people here. What's the 6th number of?
Man.
Okay. And man is in a sinful state and needs a redeemer. If one guy dies, what does that leave?
5.
And that's the number of?
Grace.
Grace. You guys are doing good. Okay. Heifer dies. So his portion is going to go to who? Zelophehad, which is his son. Zelophehad doesn't have males for children. He's got 5 daughters. Okay. Look at these names here. My father's help, portion or smooth, God has filled with joy, vow of God, shoulder, well, and that word well comes from digger shame. Remember where we're at, Shechem, well. Okay, shame. Jesus bore our shame. And knowing the name or fame of knowledge is Shemitah. So who dies? Heifer. When heifer dies, picture Christ, we get our inheritance. Okay, So now let's go down and look at verse 3. Now Zelophehad, the son of Hepher, son of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, had no sons, but only daughters. These are the names of the daughters: Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. Okay. The inheritances are only given to who? Male. And what this is symbolic of is passing on the name of your father. Okay, you have children, they pass on your name, you live through your children, your strength carries on. That's why that's important. And that's why if you don't have a son before you die, then your brother is to go into your wife and produce a child for you for the family, so your name will live on. Okay. But what about if you only have daughters and no males? If you can't pass on that right, that inheritance, what happens? And that's what they're saying here. They're coming to Eliezer and all these Joshua, and they're saying, hey, you know, what's going to happen to our inheritance? We should get that. So they inquire God, and God says, yeah, they should get that. But there's a stipulation. Okay, how are they going to continue their father's name when they're not a male? They're a female. Okay, what about the inheritance of their father? Is he just going to die now? Okay, he is a direct descendant of Joseph, from Manasseh, from Machir, from Gilead, okay, on down through the line. Zelophehad means shadow of fear. Zelophehad pictures us, those who are born in sin and fear of death. Okay, we have no inheritance in the kingdom when we're born, do we? When you look at
What verses are you in? What chapter?
Joshua 17:3. Sorry, I don't think I forgot to tell you to go back to that, did I? So anyway, Zelophehad was the son of Hepher, the son of the well or Shem. His name, his other brother, his father was Gilead, which is a perpetual mountain. The other son was called, his father was called Sold, and his father was called He Shall Add and Take Away, Manasseh. So all these are showing you the picture of Christ here. And we can see this in Isaiah. Don't go there. I'm just going to read it. Isaiah 52:3, for thus says the Lord, you were sold, that word makir, sold, for nothing, and you shall be redeemed without money. That's where that word comes in. And these 5 sisters are called Mahlah, which is infirmity, Noah, shaky or trembly girl, or rest, comes from Noah. Hoglah means turning in joy, comes from Hog. And Milcah means queen. Tirzah means well-pleasing or delight. Okay, these picture the church. We were infirmity. We were on shaky ground. But God is going to give us rest when we turn from our sin and ask Him to save us. He will make us queen, and we will be well-pleasing in His sight, in delight. Okay? So that's our progression. Huh?
The bride of the bridegroom king.
Yep. And they approached Eleazar the priest and Joshua son of Nun, and the leaders said, the Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance along with our brothers. So according to the mouth of the Lord, He gave them inheritance upon their father. So they came to Eleazar. Inez knows what Eleazar pictures.
What?
Eleazar pictures who? The Holy Spirit. Okay. Joshua pictures the Savior.
What chapter are you in?
I'm still in 17:3, 17:5 now. Okay, son of Nun means propagate or increase. And Jehovah means commanded. And Moses means drawn out. Okay, so he's going to give us an inheritance to increase the family of God. And this picture is eternal salvation. Now the important part here is the next part. But I don't have enough time to get through it now because it's 10 o'clock. So we're going to pick up right here. If you guys want to see if you can figure out what's going on, well, you probably won't be able to because you need to know some Hebrew to see this. Anyway, the daughters of Zelophehad picture us, the church, and what is going to be required of us in order to gain our inheritance, what we have to do. And this is the neat part, but I can't pull it out this time. I don't have enough time. So we'll do this next week. Next week, we might be able to. Okay, next week, I don't know if we're having class or not. Some people said that they might not because there's women's breakfast at 9 o'clock. There might not be. If they say that in the sanctuary, then I don't know. Do you guys, should I still offer it and say, do you guys still want to have class even if they say that there's not going to be any?
I say yes.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see what.
I thought the women's breakfast was on a Saturday.
I thought it was too, but I thought they said no class for some other reason.
Well, that was.
That was the email I got.
Yeah, Christmas Eve day and New Year's day.
Okay, Christmas Eve and New Year's. That's normal.
Yeah. That's the only two I heard.
Okay, well then let's plan on being here next week unless I call you guys.
Right.
Okay. And I know Polo wanted to know about the star. What was the star that the Magi saw? I'm going to try to outline that for you. I worked on it a little bit here. I think it might work enough that I can show you what that looked like. So I'll open up with that next week since we're real close to Christmas season and show you what they actually saw in the sky. And is there any other questions you want me to do with Christmas? Because I got 8 hours, I think, of stuff on YouTube if you guys want to know. But if you want to know one specific question or whatever, I'll deal with that.
Yeah, the poem I'm reading tonight is a poem I wrote for your class last year, and the title of it is Salvation Star.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll come tonight and listen to that. So we'll deal with that, and then we'll get into the rest of this Zelophehad once we get through that next week. All right.
Close in prayer.
All right. And by the way, I've listened to those videos, and upstairs in that room was so noisy with the fan and everything, and the echo. I'm gonna have to redo them. So I'll redo them next year and make them a little better, hopefully. Anyway, anyone like to close in prayer?